Right. So in the previous lecture, we have printed a string and the variable. If you closely observe, when you are printing a variable, you are not using double quotes. But when you are printing a string, you are using it. Okay, because already the if value is present in the variable, you need not use any double quotes. If you use them, then again Java thinks it as an string and output will be printed as an letter A. So if you run this and see, letter A will be printed. So if you don't use double quotes, then Java will look if there is any variable defined with this letter. If so, then it prints the value present in that variable. If there is no variable defined, then it gives an error. So let me comment it out this step now, and you see there is an error. Move your mouse and it says create a local variable A or use it double quotes. If I simply use double quote, then error will go, treating it as a string. But if you don't use double quote, you must declare variable A somewhere. Right? That's the difference between printing out string and printing out variables. Okay. Now I'll talk about one more concept in Java, that is methods. What are the methods? Basically these are blocks in our Java class. So let me write one block here, public void get data. This is one block, and open the braces, and I'm closing the braces here, right? So let's assume that this is one block of the code, and I have given name for this block of the code as get data, right? And void is something which is a return type for this method. Now it expects if you return any number from this method, then that if that number is an integer, then you have to write integer here. Or if you are returning string from this method, then you have to declare this as a string. Or if you are not returning anything, if you are just simply writing few lines of code here without returning anything, then let it be as a void. Okay, so now what I'll do, I'll print out system.out.println I am in method. Okay, so here I'm not returning anything, right? So I'm keeping this as void only. Void, it doesn't return anything. Now if I say return 2, here I'm returning a number that is an integer. That's the reason I have an error here. If I move my mouse here, it says change method return type to integer, and this is the method, and it is expecting to change it to integer, because when you are returning 2 from this method, it should be changed to integer. And if I change it to string hello, and again there is an error. It says change method return type to string, and when you do in that fashion, error is gone, right? And about this public access modifier, I'll talk in a later point of time, because there is much to discuss on this. There are different access modifiers in Java like public, private, protected and default. So when I'm talking about that concept, I will give example on each and every access modifier, right? For now, just accept all access modifiers as public. And now you are wondering why these methods are present in Java. What is their usage? Okay, let's say that you are executing some block of code in a page. So every time when you reach that page, you have to write 10 lines of code to check whether you are in proper page or not. Okay, so I have successfully done all the execution in that particular page, and now I am moving to page 2. Again here I have to execute the 10 lines of code to make sure I have page is properly loaded or not, something. So if I have 10 pages, right, in every page I have to check once I reach that page to make sure that page is loaded with this 10 lines of code. So 10 pages, 10 lines of code, 10 into 10, 100 lines of code we are replicating in one single Java program. And the same lines of code we are duplicating for 10 times, right? So to avoid that, we write all the 10 lines of code into one block, and we give name to that block as some get data, something like that. And thereafter, whenever we require that 10 lines of code, I would simply call this method name get data. That's it. All the 10 lines of code will fall into that particular block and it gets executed. In that case, we avoid writing it 10 times and write only once in a method and call that method name whenever required. Okay, so here in this case, let me comment out this and put this as void only. So in this class, I say I am in method is the line, just assume this is single line is the 10 lines of code, right? So I want to call this method, but here remember that this is an outside of main block. That means this code is nowhere can be executed. To execute it, you have to bring it inside. So in that case, people generally what they do, they'll completely copy this code and they write it here, and then it throws an error because no methods are allowed inside the main block. They should be written outside the main block but inside the class. Okay, if you write something outside the class, there is no point that Java catches that, right? So you cannot write methods inside the block. So that's the reason we write it outside the block, main block. Okay, but if you write outside the main block, how do you bring that get data code inside your main? For that reason, you need to create object for the class where your method is defined. Here my methods are defined in the first class, right? So create an object for this class, and then with that object you can access the methods and variables present in the class, right? So in the next lecture, let's see what are the objects and where do we use them and how objects are used to call the methods and variables. It's an interesting. So slowly we are stepping into the core Java's concept, and you'll start enjoying when we put all the things together and we see output with proper running. Okay, yeah, thank you.